Welcome to Senior Moments. I'm Tommy Ellison. You know, I forget names, car keys, and what I came in the room for, but somehow I remember the 60s with crystal clear clarity. What you are about to hear is evidence of a misspent youth, and believe me, I've got some stories. Let's go. Well, hi guys, it's Tommy Ellison and it's Senior Moments time. It's live at 5 and I thank you for being with me here today. Um, I I have I think what's maybe a pretty good show today because well, you know, it's the aftermath of the 250th year celebration of our country, and I know probably some of you are just kind of worn out on the notion of the celebration and all that's going on. And certainly in the last few days, it's really ramped up, and I was excited to watch a lot of it. But I thought I would well, maybe venture off into a little bit different area here today because, you know, all of this is really based on what happened in 1776. And of course, the landmark event that happened in 1776 was when our nation and our founding fathers came together in one mind and literally created the document that started it all. We refer to it as the Declaration of Independence. And well, the more I thought about it, you know, I thought that document, as precious and as valuable as it is to us and our startup here in this country, and that coupled with the Constitution itself, you know, we're really landmark events that we celebrate. And I posted on Facebook earlier this week the idea that the actual group that met that established the Declaration of Independence actually voted on the 2nd of July and not the 1st of July or the 4th of July. The 4th was actually when it was signed after some minor changes and what have you. So a little bit of identity crisis there between July 2nd and July 4th, but that's all minutia that historians talk about, and that's not my purpose today. But I've always been a Seinfeld fan, and for those of you who've ever watched Seinfeld, the television episode, there were a bunch of them. You know, his best buddy's name was George, and George's dad, who I forget the character's name, real name, but anyway, George's dad and Kramer always had some kind of shenanigans, I would say, going on when all this was taking place. And so I felt like it might be appropriate, I guess, to look back at the Declaration of Independence. And I was reminded of a title. I was trying to think of a title. And see, there was one episode on Seinfeld where Kramer and George's buddy, or his dad rather, came up with this new holiday called Festivus for the Rest of Us. You may remember it. It was kind of an ongoing theme, like a callback in a number of those episodes. And if you're a Seinfeld fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But as I was preparing this podcast, I couldn't help but think of them. And so I've named this episode A Declaration for the Rest of Us. That's what I would I guess that's what I would call it. See if I can get my title up here. What about if I do that, Tommy? There we go. A declaration for the rest of us. Just really title, and I hope you enjoy it anyway. So that was the intent of all this, and I guess this is my contribution to the 4th of July celebrations and our nation's 250th anniversary, our birthday, I guess. And okay, I'm a day late in regards to this day and celebrating versus the yesterday. But you know, what's 24 hours but when you're celebrating 250 years? So give me a break, all right? But as we examine that document that we call the Declaration of Independence, it kind of helps to understand, you know, the world in which it was written. Because if you read that document and it's been transcribed into, you know, text, because the original document is old, and it's kind of lost some of its legibility even there in the Library of Congress. But when the document was actually written, and this is what I kind of want to focus on today, when the document was written, Thomas Jefferson was about 33 years old when he penned the document for the group that had met there from the 13 colonies. And the deal was, in 1776, he was writing for a society that was really educated in classical literary style of the 18th century. And Americans and British that were there in the colonies, you know, they were in that era. They were school children, you know, in one-room schoolhouses. They were you know, judges and ministers and statesmen, and they were accustomed to reading and hearing these long, carefully constructed sentences filled with this really rich vocabulary and logical arguments that Jefferson was putting forth in this document. So to them, Jefferson's prose was clear and familiar. And over the past 250 years, the English language and its literary style, you know, they've evolved pretty dramatically. Maybe not so much for the best, but it has changed. And so our modern readers, you know, we would struggle, not because the ideas are difficult, but because the language is no longer the language that we naturally speak or read. And so the purpose of this podcast and of the people that I've conferred with and stole their ideas, you know, it was to rewrite and improve, or maybe reinterpret the Declaration, or it wasn't about interpreting really. It was just simply to express the timeless ideas in more of a 21st century English, and still, don't get me wrong, don't misunderstand, still preserving Jefferson's original intent and the meaning and the force in which he wrote that document. So remember this, as I read this, the principles remain exactly the same. Only the literary style is being updated so that today's readers, or listeners in your case, can better understand the document as clearly as those who first heard it in 1776. So I invite you, if you would, and you'll find transcripts in different places, to look up the original wording of the Declaration of Independence and compare it to what we read today and see if you understand what the document and the writers were really trying to say in language that we can understand. The concepts are the same. The principles are the same. The language has been modernized. So allow me to offer this version of the Declaration of Independence. I call it the Revised Standard Version, and it's an English translation that was provided to me by author and conservative thinker Jim Reynolds. And I want to thank Jim for the transcript and the inspiration to share his work, and I try to share his work whenever I can. And you can find his work and his writings on the Substack app, if you're familiar with that, and at www.reynolds, like Reynolds Aluminum, REYNOLDS, Reynolds.com. So here we go. The Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 2026. Sometimes a people reach the point where they can no longer live under the government that rules them. When that happens, they owe the world an explanation. This is ours. We begin with a truth that should be obvious. Every human being is created equal. Every person is endowed by our Creator with rights that no government can give and no government may rightly take away. Among those rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Government exists for one reason: to protect those rights. The authority comes only from the consent of the governed. When government fulfills that duty, it deserves our support. When it consistently violates that duty, it loses its legitimacy. The people then have the right to change it or abolish it and establish a government more likely to protect their freedom and secure their future. No wise people do this lightly. Long-established governments should not be overthrown over temporary disagreements or minor grievances. History teaches that people will endure much before risking revolution. They will tolerate inconvenience. They will tolerate hardship. They will even tolerate injustice. But there comes a point when abuses are no longer isolated. They become a pattern. Power no longer serves the people. The people exist only to serve the power. That is tyranny. And a free people have both the right and the duty to end it. That is the condition of these American colonies. We did not rush to this decision. We petitioned. We appealed. We warned. We asked only for the rights that belong to free Englishmen. Each appeal was answered with further injury. The facts speak for themselves. The king refused laws necessary for the public good. He prevented colonial government from acting when action was urgently needed. He being the king, he dissolved representative assemblies whenever they resisted him. He denied the people meaningful representation. He obstructed justice. He made judges dependent upon his own will. He created new offices and new officials to harass the people. He maintained standing armies in times of peace without our consent. He placed military power above civilian authority. He cut off our trade. He imposed taxes without our consent. He denied us the protection of trial by jury. He suspended our own legislatures and claimed unlimited power over us. He declared war against his own subjects. He burned our towns. He destroyed our property. He hired foreign soldiers to wage war against us. He encouraged violence within our own borders. These are not isolated mistakes. They are not misunderstandings. They are the deliberate acts of a ruler determined to establish absolute power. Such a ruler is unfit to govern a free people, nor can the people of Britain claim ignorance. We warned them. We appealed to our common history, our common heritage, and our shared sense of justice. They chose not to listen. We are therefore left with only one course. We declare that these colonies are, and by the right ought to be, free and independent states. Our allegiance to the British Crown is ended. Every political bond between us and Great Britain is dissolved. As free and independent states, we claim the same rights possessed by every sovereign nation to make peace, wage war when necessary, form alliances, establish commerce, and govern ourselves. This is not a decision without cost. We know what we risk. Some will lose their fortunes. Some will lose their homes. Some will lose their lives. Yet there are principles worth more than comfort, safety, or even life itself. Freedom is one of them. With firm reliance upon divine providence, we pledge to one another our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. So that's it. I welcome your comments, and I know that perhaps hearing this document for the first time in what I would consider to be an understandable form of language would maybe come somewhat as a surprise. These thoughts weren't originated in the minds of these men. These were classic examples of government that came from other countries and other civilizations, the Greeks and the Romans. And the founders and Thomas Jefferson and his educational background and even in England, where he studied at Oxford, pull these principles together and formed this document that we revere so highly today. So, anyway, I welcome your comment in the comment if you so do, and if you would, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I hope you have a great weekend. I'm Tommy Ellison, and this is Senior Moments. Good night. Well, hey, thanks for spending a few minutes with me on Senior Moments. If you enjoyed the ride, be sure and tap that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next one. I'll be back soon with more stories from a misspent youth, and maybe some of yours too.